topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, California. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where we bring you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. About 3 months ago, maybe 4 months ago, I started getting a barrage of emails and texts from our listeners saying, why aren't you doing a show on neuropathy? And it was kind of surprised because, we're down here in South Florida, and neuropathy is like one of the hottest topics. And we finally got an opening, and then I had to do the hard part. I had to find one of the top doctors in the field of neuropathy, because I understand, because I've got friends of mine here that are suffering through neuropathy. We found Dr. Jason Kelberman. Good afternoon, Dr. Kelberman.
Thank you. How's the weather down there?
Nice and warm. Nice and warm. So, Dr. Kelberman, first of all, tell people about your background and your practice.
So, I've been in Los Angeles for 40 years. And
you're a newbie.
I'm a newbie, yeah. And as you can imagine, over the years of treating athletes and thousands of people's feet, and I know you would probably say that's typically not what chiropractors do, but when you look at how do you get somebody to perform better in their sport, how do you take care of their lower back, how do you take care of their knees, their feet and ankles, it's all integrated, and feet are extremely important. And you'd be surprised how many people have weak feet. In fact, the statistics are that 80% of the population is walking around with at least one weak foot. And it's my opinion, after all these years, that one of the reasons why many older people fall is because they lose the function in their foot and therefore their balance. And that's a major component. So it's kind of my goal in life at this point is to turn that around and to keep as many of us older people walking and enjoying life as long as humanly possible. And so what I saw in my practice was many years ago, we're going back 20 years now, I started using laser therapy in the office. And then as we went along, and it was very effective for all the sport injuries, we started to see that the people with neuropathy also got better with laser therapy. And so that sparked my interest. Now, at the time, it was a very weak laser. Just to give you an idea, 20 years ago, if we had 3 watts of power, we were cooking, okay? Now, the average is 25 to 75 watts. And not only do we have more power, we have more frequencies. We can, back then it took 45 minutes to deliver a dose that we can do in 5 minutes. So it became a lot more powerful, a lot more effective, a lot more efficient. And so you will see a lot, across the stories through neuropathy that laser does help. Now, that said, it doesn't help everybody. Hey, what a surprise. Something that doesn't work for everybody. And therein lies kind of the situation with the medical world, because they want to have a neuropathy treatment. They want a pill for neuropathy. And we call that gabapentin or Lyrica. And for some, that helps the pain. All right. Now, understand that doesn't fix the neuropathy. It just handles the pain. And look, for some who are in level 10 out of 10 pain, I'm okay with that, really. Any
Right.
kind of peace in their life or is a gratitude. So, but for many people, it doesn't work. Why is that? Well, because there's over 100 different types of neuropathy, and each case responds differently. Gee, what a surprise! People responding differently. So that began my journey of so how do we get more people better? And so that took me through decades of working with a variety of different modalities, and now we have some extraordinarily good electrotherapy that I brought on board about 2 years ago because it was better for numb cases. Okay, you hear a lot about people who have pain and burning and cramping, sure,
Yes.
but people are walking out there completely numb down there, and these are actually more difficult because there's actually more nerve damage. And so along the way, I found so my other background is that I'm a kinesiologist. I'm a chiropractic kinesiologist, and that means that I intensely want all of your musculature to work in balance and fully, since I did performance issues with athletes. And so what we began to find is that 99% of the neuropathy patients had weak feet. Okay, there was an occasional 1% that wasn't, but it's pretty rare. And so being a rehab specialist, I wanted to figure out, well, what do we do? How do we rehab them? How do we get them stronger? How do we get them balancing better and walking better? It's not all about just getting rid of the pain. I mean, that's very important for most people. Don't get me wrong. But if they're going to fall again, they're going to get hurt again. So I developed a system I call foot power of actually re-strengthening and reestablishing functional strength in their feet, even though they have nerve damage. And so that was another piece of the puzzle. So each time we make a breakthrough, we add one more piece to the efficiency equation. So these days, we can do a heck of a lot more with a lot more people than we could 20 years ago. So I'm thrilled about that, and I'm dedicated to specifying with this particular situation with human beings.
How do you know, Dr. Kelberman? You said there's 100 different types of neuropathy. How do you know which one they have?
Well, there's 100 different ways, but there's really 5 categories. So it's not that difficult. But sometimes, here again, humans, we accumulate things. Just look at your garage, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
You can have different categories. For example, I can have a disease-based neuropathy. I can have diabetes. But at the same time, I can have a mercury toxic situation because I like to eat fish every day. Okay. Or I can have a lumbar disc herniation on top of that. So now I've got 3 different categories. And to the extent that you treat each of the categories, that's how much better the patient gets. So in our office, we're blessed to have non-surgical spinal decompression for the disc patients. We utilize custom formulas for the diabetics. We have an amazingly gentle detoxification program if they are mercury or lead toxic, which are the 2 most common. And sometimes we even come across mold toxicity. So those are about the 3 main ones. There are a couple of others which involve either nutrient deficiency or drug-related neuropathy. Okay, the number one, well, from a drug point of view, all the chemotherapy drugs that they use to save people's lives with can cause a lot of neuropathy. And we have an excellent program. We're about 92% effective with all the chemotherapy-induced neuropathies these days. So it's if you see the right person who has the right experience and you're properly evaluated, you can get better. If you, hey, here was a thought that I had when we were going to talk about the show. Things that are purchased on the internet that are crap.
Like supplements.
Well, so supplements are important. Most of the ones on the internet are so weak that they're not going to do a whole lot. And I understand that too, because they can't be selling high potency stuff to some people. They're not going to tolerate it. I get it. It's really up to you and your doctor, whoever you trust, to help guide you through that. because the right nutrients can make a huge difference. Here's an example. High blood pressure. High blood pressure and diabetes both can cause neuropathy. What does high blood pressure have to do with that? Well, high blood pressure can damage your arteries. Okay. It's not just about, am I going to get a stroke? Am I a high risk patient or that type of thing? It's also that the damaged arteries will then not deliver properly to the nerves. And then the nerves don't have enough oxygenation, so they become compromised and degenerated. So sometimes this is just domino effects in the human body. Okay. If somebody has nerve degeneration, there's a reason. And to the degree you figure out what that reason is in that individual, you can help them. And that's what we do here at Westside Wellness Center.
Tell people it's very dangerous not to address this, isn't it?
Pretty much peripheral neuropathy is considered a chronic degenerative disease, which means that if you don't do anything about it, it's going to get worse. Now, can we predict how much that will? No, we can't. It's different in every case, but some people they lost their entire lifestyle. They cannot walk. It goes on and on. You wouldn't believe some of the stories that I hear about how affected they are in their day-to-day lives and how transformed they are after just 90 days of care in my office. So, yeah, did that answer your question?
Yeah, we just got a text. Someone wanted to know, I'm 64 years old. I want to know, how do I know if I have neuropathy?
Well, first of all, you probably should have some of the many symptoms. So it's pain, numbness, tingling, burning, cramping. Usually affects both feet equally. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's just one hand or one foot. But it usually starts, for most people, it starts in their feet. If you're diabetic and it's gone systemic, you're going to get it in your hands and your whole body as well. And other disease processes will do the same like that when it affects the whole body. The only way to be sure is to get properly evaluated, and that's done neurologically, functionally. For us, it's pretty easy. But if you're not having any symptoms, I don't know that there's anything to really worry about. But if you are, yeah, you should get it checked.
He had a follow-up question. What about balance?
So as I mentioned earlier, when the nerves become affected, they affect the muscles. Muscles don't do anything without the nerves telling them what to do. Every time you move your hand, move your head, your brain just sent a message down the spinal cord to your body parts and told it to move. Okay. And if those nerves are compromised, then the muscle is not going to function. And when the feet don't function, you lose your balance. Now, can there be other issues with balance? Sure. That can be brain issues and upper brain stem issues and upper cervical issues. But for most people, it's their feet. And we see the change every day in the office after they re-strengthen using foot power, that they can walk again. Their balance is great again. It's a miracle to see.
Pain reduces too.
Absolutely.
Do you see it's a gender, male, female, what age group?
So I think it's pretty even gender-wise. I think that the age group is usually over 60, but we do get quite a few cases younger. I will say that the younger cases are almost always involving some toxicity issue in the body. It varies, but here's the thing about us people. We're not all exactly the same. Some of us detoxify better than others, okay? Some of us don't detoxify very well, and if we get some toxicity, it affects us more than somebody else. It's kind of like allergy. You can take 3 people into a room with cats and dogs, and most are feeling great, and one person is sneezing their face off. It's an individual process, and when you evaluate it on that basis and take care of it on that basis, they usually respond beautifully.
Dr. Kelberman, I want to throw this in. I think I am so amazed all the different ways that you have of treating people as a chiropractor. I mean, it used to be, just the adjustment.
Spinal
You are so
manipulation.
far
Correct.
ahead of that now.
I know. We've come a long way.
Unbelievable.
I work with doctors of physical therapy, and I specify that because they are better trained than physical therapists. Okay, and so we have similar. There's many different types of doctors in this world. Those that dedicate themselves to learning as much as humanly possible and continually, because every year or two or three or five, we have a major breakthrough again. And that's the amazing part of all medicines today. Mine just happens to be physical medicine. But we do a fair amount of functional medicine with nutrition as well. And that's important. We as human beings are an integrated structure. We are not just physical. We are not just chemical. We are also, you want to call it spiritual, emotional, etc. All of those things are together as an integrated being. I can't be pain-free and happy if I'm stressed to the max every day of my life and I can't sleep and I can't eat. Okay. So that's just an example of a reality for us humans. Okay. We need at least 6 hours straight of sleep to be able to deal with whatever occurred to us during the day. And I know a lot of us don't think of it that way, but sleeping is like battery recharge time for us. We do all of our rejuvenation, rebuilding in our sleep, in deep REM sleep. So really important. And unfortunately, the neuropathy cases are usually very affected by that. And that's one of the things that we address quickly, because that helps tremendously.
I know you've got such an incredible rate when it comes to treating neuropathy. How long, I know everybody's different, but how long does it normally take to treat a patient to where you see a difference?
So that depends on what amount of degeneration has already occurred. I get all kinds of cases now. In fact, I get some of the worst cases because they come to me last. If they are a mild case, 6 to 8 weeks is an amazing turnaround time for them. If they are a moderate case, 9 to 12 weeks or so is a turnaround. If they are a severe case, it could take 6 months. And when you look at it from that perspective, if you're in severe nerve degeneration, 6 months is a good outcome. In the medical world, if you get a 20 to 30% improvement, that's considered successful. Not in my world. In my world, you better have at least a minimum of 50% improvement within 8 weeks. Okay. Yeah. I demand a lot more progress than that, or we're not getting to the core reason for the neuropathy. But we usually do enough evaluation along the way to facilitate that.
Here's Barbara in Orange County.
Uh-huh.
She said, I heard you mention functional medicine. What is functional medicine?
So basically, that involves the use of blood work to try to decipher what's going awry in the human body, and then utilizing as much diet and nutrition to correct it. In some cases, it requires other medical intervention. In some cases, hormone replacement therapy, etc. Things that must be prescribed by a medical doctor. But for most of the neuropathy cases, I can handle that with diet and nutrition.
We just got another one wanting to know, how do you, it seems like stress can cause a lot of things. How do you treat stress?
Good question. It's going to be a complicated answer. Here we go. Get your notepad out or turn your memo on. 2 parts to our nervous system, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Okay, so far? The sympathetic we call fight or flight. That's you being stressed. That's you being hammered all day, all night, PTSD, by the way, is an exaggerated form of sympathetic dominance. Okay. In sympathetic dominance, we're supposed to be at the ready to fight, ready to run, ready to do anything physical to get out of trouble. Okay. In that, we do not handle inflammation. We do not handle regular business in the body. Nothing else is facilitated. Okay. All right. Put that aside for a second. So most neuropathy patients come in a state of sympathetic dominance. Okay. How do we change that? Well, first off, is we stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, which, by the way, is mainly the vagus nerve that comes out of your skull and down your body and controls your entire digestive system, which is why a lot of neuropathy patients have digestive and gut issues. Okay. But it's not unusual for humans either. That can be done very easily in any office, and stimulating them with a vibratory stimulator helps an awful lot. And I'm going to make a generalization here that many people like. Tibetan monks go, oh, you hear that vibration? Hey,
Yes.
guess what? That's a parasympathetic stimulant. There's a reality check there. You could call whatever spiritual component you want to that, but in a physical realm, that's a parasympathetic stimulant to your vagus nerve, and that calms you. What a perfect way to go into a meditative state, right? So I like that analogy because it kind of everybody can understand that. So we both stimulate that physically. Yeah, we give humming exercises. It's really hard to do. And we also give nutrients that support the parasympathetic system and lower the sympathetic. Okay. The main ingredient is usually the hormone called cortisol. Now here's how it connects. Cortisol, when it puts out, let's say you're in sympathetic dominance, it cannot find a sleep hormone. So it'd be like you having a fight with somebody and expecting to go to sleep in 30 seconds. Can't happen. Cortisol is in you. It's raging. You cannot find a sleep hormone. So we can lower the cortisol levels with nutrients and humming, if you will. And we can increase the parasympathetic in other ways. And certain foods help that as well. And thereby balance, and along with other physical treatments to the human body, including craniosacral balancing. There are many different physical medicine approaches to that, but they all go towards balancing out, lowering the sympathetic and bringing up the parasympathetic so we're back in balance. Okay. And 90% of the people sleep a whole heck of a lot better, and that really helps them heal.
What about dietary changes? What do you think should be done? Is that going to also help with neuropathy?
Absolutely. I'll just throw a few out. The obvious ones first: sugar, alcohol, and high carb diets. It's all the same. All right. What that does is it basically loads your liver and does not give you any nutrient value. That's the problem with sugar. It actually forces your body to use its own nutrients to process the sugar out. Okay. So that's why fruit's better than white sugar, because fruit at least has nutrient value. Yeah. Also, the liver loves greens. The liver loves everything that's green in your world. All right. If it's green, eat it, unless you're allergic to it. All the B vitamins and minerals, etc. Most of us Americans have a way too low consumption of greens and vegetables, and that's the number one thing. The number two thing is proper oils. There's a lot of misinformation about that, but oils are as important as a vitamin. The liver wants the fatty acids from oils. It wants the B vitamins. It uses all of that to help you process out what you ate, what you breathed in, etc. So those are the basics. There's a lot more than that. But we actually have nutrients that were developed by scientists that now improve your circulation as well, that actually treat the lining of the arteries called the glycocalyx. Okay. So there's some amazing stuff out today that really helps open up the flow of blood and oxygen to the nerves to actually start to revitalize, rejuvenate that whole process. And it's for me, it's kind of fun to see how somebody goes from, a level 10 pain coming in the door and walking out eventually without pain and just enjoying life again. That's what makes me get up in the morning and come in and do my job.
Dr. Kelberman, I got to tell you, I've been doing these shows for 13 years now. And boy, that when the show goes by fast, it's been a great show. Give everybody your phone number and your website.
So the phone number is 310-268-8008, 310-268-8008. And it's westsidewellnesscenter.com, all spelled out. I know, it's a pain. westsidewellnesscenter.com. But there's a lot of good information there. In fact, this show is now on the site as well. You can watch that. Well,
and also you can go to iHeart, and Dr. Kelberman will be back again with us next month. And I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody's text. Most of them, the show wasn't long enough, Dr. Kelberman.
It never is. It never is.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you, and thank everybody out there. Bye-bye now.
You're welcome. And we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we have more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.